Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Edibles Dosing 101. Um, Peace and love, everyone. My name is Takisha Carter, and I am the founder of Afro Canna Wholistic and the creator of Black Women Who Blaze. I am your presenter and moderator for this session, Edibles Dosing 101, my way. So thank you for joining me. I'm happy to be here discussing edibles because I am a foodie. I love to cook and create food experiences, and cooking with cannabis just brings my creativity to a whole new level. Before we get started, I want to preface by stating that I am in the state of Connecticut, where cannabis is legal to consume for adults 21 and over and medicinal card holders. Please check the laws in your state before consuming cannabis. Also, I am not a medical practitioner, so be sure to speak with your provider before making any dietary changes. Okay, so now that that's out the way, a little bit about my edibles experience. I started creating edibles for myself before I became a medicinal patient. And, I smoked weed, but not heavy. I was more of a toker. And I was curious about making edibles to have the experience for myself. I was leery of trying anyone else's because of all the horror stories I've heard over the years. So I bought books, I researched on the internet, and I bought some street bud. Um, and I created my first butter. Excuse. And I used it in a pound cake. It was a success. It was good. The pound cake was delicious, or so I thought. It came out great aesthetically, but when I ate my first slice, 45 minutes later, I was done. I was done. I felt like I was floating, which I don't mind that effect, but my heart was pounding. I could feel it like pulsating in my toes. Um, it came in waves. It was like each wave came a bit stronger and longer lasting. So I became nervous, wishing it would end. I mean, I was praying really like, ooh, if I get through this, I won't ever do it again type of prayers. And I tried not to panic. I didn't want my kids to see me freak out. So my husband, he's a veteran smoker with a high tolerance, so he tried it as well, and he loved it. He loved it. It affected him totally differently. What I did learn from the experience is that dosing my edibles and portion control was very important. You know, so that's what we're here to talk about today. 3 questions. So there are quite a few things to learn when buying and creating and consuming edibles. But we are here to discuss dosing and its relevancy. Once I became a patient, I had access to edibles sold at the dispensary. So, and if you're in a legal state, you may have access to them as well. So I will speak about dosing your packaged edibles as well as a brief discussion on calculations and calculating your dosing mediums of your choice at home. And then lastly, what to do if you consume too much. So 3 questions. Why is dosing important? How to dose your edibles? And what to do when you eat too much. Okay. So why is dosing important? Well, after my first experience, I thought I wouldn't touch edibles again. I was like, oh, it's not for me, but I love to cook. So I realized that there was a lot to learn. I enjoy creating infusions and foods with alcohol as well as cannabis. And I understood that with alcohol infusions, proper measuring was necessary to be sure that it not only tastes good, nobody wants something like overpoweringly bitter, but that it wasn't going to also over intoxicate when you consume it. And oftentimes I would create boozy cupcakes and boozy cakes for birthdays and things like that. So I learned how to find balance with that. So I began to apply the same concept with my cannabis infused foods. So dosing is important to be sure you have an enjoyable experience. Excuse me. Also to safely consume. If you are consuming for therapeutic purposes, it will ensure you can get the desired effect and, most safely. So to ensure that you have a good experience, to ensure you, obviously, I'm emphasis on you, have a good experience. So that's a typo. And to help the consumer achieve the desired effect. Okay, so how do you dose? How to dose edibles? The most important thing to remember, if you're cooking it and creating with it, or even eating package, is to start low and go slow. You will hear that from everyone who consumes any cannabis educator or professional when consuming. You should start low and, take your time. Don't rush it. You want to start off with your intentions. What's your intentions for consuming? Are you supplementing? Um, are you using it therapeutically for a condition or recreationally? Like you trying to get lit. So then after consider what the intention is, then also which cannabinoids are you going to consume? You have THC and CBD, and they have very different effects. I suggest personally, when I'm consuming edibles, I like to have both available, but more on that later. Everyone's tolerance levels and digestive systems differ. So when we eat edibles, our livers metabolize the delta 9 THC to 11-hydroxy THC. This process causes a stronger euphoric effect and a more intense feeling. So hence the feeling of floating and in my toes that I've never actually felt when inhaling it. But once it was metabolized through my liver, it went throughout my body. So it was more intense, more euphoric. I did enjoy some parts of it, but not the anxiety that it brought on from having too much and not really knowing the, because it was street bud, I didn't know the percentage, and I didn't know how strong it was. So this chart found on Leafly, created by the founder of healers.com, kind of gives you a guide, okay? And you can have this guide on hand, your edibles and trying to dose. So starting off with a micro dose of about 2 milligrams on an empty stomach, I've learned how to see how the cannabis is going to affect me, or the edible that I create is going to affect me. And you learn that just trial. I'm not going to say an error, but just kind of feeling your way out on what's best for you. And then waiting at least 40 minutes to see how you feel is a good introduction to beginning edibles. Packaged edibles can typically range from 10 milligrams to 100 milligrams. And so those 100 milligrams is a high dose. And those high doses, I don't know who's taking 100 milligrams at one time, but those are reserved for people with a high tolerance level. So if you buy a 100 milligram brownie from the dispensary, cutting the brownie in 4 even quarters will yield approximately 4 25 milligram servings. And according to this chart, you should feel a strong euphoria, and this is considered a high dose. And for this reason, I opted to purchase my flower and create my own at home. And so, how to dose edibles at home? Well, the first step to dosing at home is education. And I thought I had that, but, I just really went to the how to put it in the food. I didn't really understand dosing at that time. And had I really did, I probably wouldn't have done it with street bud, or at least would have tried to test it, but I kind of had to, wing it. And so now, with all the education available and legalization happening and access to so many cannabis professionals and people who, like me, who's willing to share and teach, you can learn how to do it effectively and safely. So knowing the THC or CBD percentage of your flower or concentrate is important for proper calculation. So for me, having, this is my flower, and when I pick it up, it tells me this is 37% potency, give or take, the lab is correct. And you measure flour by milligrams, and then you have your concentrates. I hope everyone can see this. And this is my concentrated. This is a 1-to-1. And this is measured in milliliters. And of course, it's concentrated, so it has a lot more. It's very hard to 465 milligrams and of THC and CBD. I couldn't really read it. I need glasses. But that's important for proper calculation. And knowing the weight of it as well. So if you're doing your concentrate, you're going to have a scale, and you might want to have a little apparatus to put the concentrate on, like a small spoon or something like that. Weigh that out to 0, add your concentrate, and that'll tell you as far as the weight of that. And then your flour, of course, you can weigh that out as well. And when you infuse at home and begin with flour concentrate, you have to activate the THCA or CBDA to make it THC or CBD. And this is done with a process called decarboxylation. This is simply heating the cannabis at 240 degrees for 40 minutes. I've done this in my oven when beginning in a glass Pyrex covered with foil. Or you can purchase a gadget like the Ardent, which I love, which makes it easy. Which is woman-owned, by the way. And then once decarbed, I would weigh it again before I put it into my butter or oil. And there are online calculators. I like to use one that Corinne Tobias created on wakeandbake.co, and I put that link in the chat. That just makes it easy for me to quickly calculate, and then also what I'm using to infuse it in. And then you can also find out what your recipe potency will be once you're finished, and break it down per serving. And so once you have created your butter or oil, now you can create micro servings versus micro doses. And this changed the game for me. So if you want to do the math, I also put a link for, I think it's farmedwell.com. It's a fellow canna coach of mine, and she created I guess it would be a handout or something like that, or like a little flyer, and you can calculate it yourself at home without a calculator. You can do the math, okay? So, overconsumption, don't panic, okay? It can happen to anyone. Stay calm and know that it is temporary. If you happen to overconsume, try to relax, stay calm, drink plenty of fluids, and stay hydrated. Foods high in sugar can offset some of the effects of THC. That's why a lot of people put the stuff in candy. I'm starting to figure candy and cookies and things like that. They create those type of edibles. But for me, because I actually add it to food, if I want to make breakfast, you might oatmeal or pancakes or what have you, even salads like dressings and things like that. If I have too much, I'll normally balance it out with some CBD tea, and that kind of counters the effects and balances the effects of THC as well. Or you can sleep it off, okay? Relax, lay down, sleep it off. I mean, I have had some edibles where I've went to sleep and woke back up with a butt hangover, still feeling the effects. So It depends on how strong you create it, what the intention is. And then pop in something funny to distract you from worrying and anxiety. And remember that no one has died from a THC overdose. So we've covered the basics of dosing edibles. Dose your edibles. Why? To consume safely and have a great experience. To start low and find your right dose. Start low and slow, find your right dose. So that's why it's important, how to dose and what to do if you overconsume. Well, you dose so you avoid that. I hope that you found this information valuable and are encouraged to try edibles as a delivery method for your cannabis. Okay, stay on the chat with me, ask any questions. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. Is there any questions about dosing edibles? Anyone want to come on in? Let me see if I'm supposed to put a moderation thing here, because I don't know. Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't have to. Anyone want to come in? No. So we are. Okay, so you have the Farmed Well math. Oh, Samantha. Okay, Samantha, let's see.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
That was awesome. I'm so good. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my God. I was just, what is your Instagram?
At Afro Canna Wholistic.
Oh, that's right. Okay, cool. I'm posting a thing, posting a little story that I can finish here.
Okay.
Because I loved what you were sharing. I came in, I bopped in a couple times throughout this, but I love that you shared about what to do if you have too much, because I think a
Right.
lot of times people don't realize that there's a lot of options for that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So and I loved what you said about changing your mindset, like throwing on some good tunes or a movie or something can be all the
Right.
difference.
Yes. Yes. A distraction from where your mind will start to go. I actually got a call from my sister-in-law, I'd say a few weeks ago, and her daughter, my niece, had a CBD infused drink she bought from a store. And she says she's had it before, one time before, but she didn't consume it all at once. She drank it a little
Yeah.
throughout the day. So she had a good experience. But this particular day, she must have been thirsty because she drank it all at one time. And so when she called, she was calling from the ER. And
Oh, shit.
yeah, she was panicking and crying, and it was 50 milligrams of CBD. It really didn't have any other labeling, but it listed the ingredients of like lemonade, lemon, water, agave, and CBD, and then it didn't, and then it said 50 milligrams. So it was just like, okay. So then she said that she was feeling, she started to sweat, shortness of breath. She said her legs and arms felt like she didn't have them anymore, like,
I have totally had that experience before. You're
right,
like, I actually don't have arms anymore, so I should probably go to the ER.
right. That was her. That was her feeling, and I tried to explain. So they were like,
Oh,
"Well, let me
shit.
call." She said, "Let me call the expert because they went to the ER to just make sure that there wasn't. I guess they drew blood to make sure there wasn't anything else in there, but there was really nothing that the physicians can do
Oh,
because
sure.
they're like, you just have to ride this out. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can give you or want to give you." and she was very dehydrated. She said she was very, very thirsty. And so hydrating is important. I mean,
Yeah.
even just me taking my tinctures at times,
Yeah.
I may just take one dropper full, but I realize like, wow, why am I so thirsty? Well, it was
Yeah.
you have to stay hydrated as well. So yeah,
I
it
love
definitely
that. That's a good tip. And yeah,
right.
it's incredible. Like I've had some CBD like overdose experiences, and the
Hmm.
one time I literally couldn't move my legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, ah, like I was like, I know what's happening right now. I was like, God damn it, what happened? Like, what did I have? And it was actually at a photo shoot. It was at a Tokeativity photo shoot, and I was like running the whole thing all day long, and we had been just, when you're doing a photo shoot smoking weed too, we were smoking so much. And then we were making cannabis cocktails.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, something's going on with my legs. I don't know what's going on. And then I was like, I literally can't stand up. And
Right.
it was like, oh no, what happened? And we realized I accidentally took a drink out of the one that we were using for a photo shoot to put this like Dabinol, I think it was called, like a Dabinol or something, super strong. And we were using it to take pictures. And I accidentally drank that and like
Wow.
had so
Wow.
much. So, this is, as new people are trying cannabis, this is like it's such a bummer when you hear somebody decided to try CBD or cannabis and then they had too much and are like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like that's it like bums me
Yes.
out so much, and why dosing 101 and just like education and conversation
Yeah.
around this is so important.
It is. It is. I definitely, speak to my clients because a lot of them want to move away from inhalation of,
Yeah.
just like the joint or the blunt
Yeah.
type of smoke. So they'll vape as well, but they don't really understand edibles as being an option. And when they think of edibles, they always
They think
think
of a
of a
brownie.
sweet treat, right? And
Yeah.
then something scary like, oh, what's in it, and is it gonna, like have
Yeah.
me.
How can I trust this?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I've had, even family members
Yeah.
say they ate something and it made them kind of wind up in the ER, doing something, running down the street, taking their clothes off. And I'm like, that wasn't
Oh.
cannabis.
There might have been some LSD in that, by the way.
Right, right. That wasn't cannabis. So you won't want to do that. But but
Oh, it's cannabis and mushrooms.
right,
Oh.
that's something you're not telling us. but,
Oh
but
my gosh.
But
Wow.
it's definitely a delivery method, but that I enjoy, and I love being able to pair different strains with different flavors and spices
Mhm.
and herbs. So being able to start low, and seeing how that affects you. And I try to let them know, start on an empty stomach, because you get those that say, I don't feel anything. And it's like, okay, you just ate like a whole meal and then you had the little piece of brownie for dessert. You're not going to feel it right away. So,
Yeah.
try it on an empty stomach to see how it's going to affect you, and
Yeah.
try something small. So yeah,
I love that.
yeah, this is definitely fun. I'm
Mm.
trying to see if there was. I left some links in the chat for those who want to have access to a dosing calculator.
Ooh, yeah. Can you put that? Let me see.
I think I did up
Is it
top.
on your website?
No, it's not. It's actually,
Oh, I see it.
yeah, you see it. It's a friend of
Wake
mine's
and
website.
bake.
Yeah, Wake and Bake. That's
I'm pulling
Corinne's
that up.
website. And then Farmed Well, if someone doesn't want to use the calculator and you want to be able to just do the math at home and know, off the top of your head, Farmed Well has a formula
Oh
where
my
you can
God,
do
that is so helpful. I think that that's one of the I mean, I'm an experienced consumer at this point, so I will make even just the other day, so I make full extract oil. I have like a desktop
that.
distiller, like a
Oh,
green
wow.
oil machine. And
Yeah.
then I make I just then I'll mix that in and like make lip balm or like different things or topicals so I can make it really, really, really strong for the topicals. And but I just put it in coconut oil and I was like, I have no idea how much this is. So I'm like, well, we're about to see, like about to see where, I think this is probably about 25 milligrams per
Right.
day.
Right, right.
So I wish I
So,
knew that ahead
so
of
now you
time.
can be more efficient with it, and especially me creating. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Me creating certain foods. Like my husband, he's a consumer, so when I want to be, specific about what the milligrams are, I love to have the calculator. But like you said, for him, he'll grab the agave and just whatever. I'm putting it on my cereal. And so, did you have a question?
Well, I just had a comment because you guys were talking about dosing and the calculator, which I will definitely check out because I make all these concoctions and I don't know how much. So I sample,
Right.
the days where I'm home and I make my brews and my tinctures and my oils, I'm gonna be
Mhm.
home all day, and by the end of the night, I'm just like paralyzed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to guess, and I give some of my friends and family members, we exchange recipes and like, yeah, just start with like an ounce and
Right,
but yeah, and
right.
and then different things affect me differently. Like, for example, oil versus the alcohol tincture. Sometimes it's like 15 minutes, and sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't have enough, so I take more. But then 3 hours later, I'm like, ooh, I took too much. So it's
Hmm.
hard.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Because even with the tinctures and the oils, I mean, even though I didn't list it in like edibles, it's still being eaten, or consumed that way. And so, because it's kind of under the tongue for the oil, I'll take that under the tongue. It's kind of a faster delivery method, but it is a little bit of a different effect for me. I don't necessarily feel it in the body as much as I do on the head for some reason. But when you eat the edible, when you eat it, for I guess because it metabolizes through the liver and your digestive system, it just goes all over the body. Like I can really feel it, depending on the milligram amount. And so I think that having the calculator and knowing from the beginning, before you create your recipe, you can calculate. And that's why I showed you would take your flour and you can put that in a calculator. And most of the time it has the percentage on there. So you can put that in a calculator and it'll tell you what uh, each milligram or how many milligrams are being each teaspoon of whatever it is you create. And then at that point, when you create your recipe, okay, like I've created vanilla. So now when I'm making a cake and I want to use 2 tablespoons of vanilla, well, 3 teaspoons make 1 tablespoon. So, hey, if my teaspoon is 12 milligrams of THC, then that means 1 tablespoon is going to be 36 and two is going to be about what 78 milligrams for the whole cake. So it all depends on what it is you're doing. But
Cool. Too, something that's been really interesting in my like edible exploration is like what it is infused with, like you were just saying. And I find that like when like if people use like rosin as opposed to full extract oil, as opposed to CO2 oil or like or
mhm,
BHO um oil, like it's so different. And I
yeah,
find that like certain edibles made with concentrates, even at 15 milligrams, I'm getting a bunch of anxiety and like it's like too much. And then other edibles, I can eat like 50 milligrams
right,
and
right,
be like chill, and be like, I'm fine, I'm high as hell, but I'm okay, and like that's been an interesting part about exploring edibles, even with my own body. And I'm sure
yes,
that's the case for everybody. And like you were saying, we're sublinguals, alcohol based versus oil based. It
hmm,
really interacts with our bodies in different ways.
yes, yes. I found for myself that creating my edibles, starting off with the raw flower, just because that, I deal with herbs as well, and, promote nutrition and, detoxification. I'm just more concerned with getting all the things that the plant has to offer, from the chlorophyll to the trichomes and terpenes as well. Like I'll want all of that in there, but and it gives me a different effect than, like you said, when I decide I'm going to use this concentrate to create, maybe a quick simple syrup or something like that. Then, like you said, it seems a little bit stronger for me, even though you might take a low dose. It's like, ooh, it's a little stronger, but like you said, just playing around with, and we're kind of learning, and practicing on ourselves, because there's no real guide. We're creating the guides as we go. And we're like the open source right now, where everyone's
Skill
going to.
sharing.
Right. Right.
Everyone's like, well, I went through this experience. That's like totally what tokeativity is. It's just like open source, like cannabis consumption.
Right. Like, what's working for you? And this is true. I think we need that. And then, especially back with the science and all the people who've done all that hard work as well. We can kind of get out there and create the type of experiences that we want, and then help others. So I'm glad to be able to do that.
This woman who I met a number of years ago, she made home testing kits for flour. And it's based on I'm too baked right now to remember what it's called, but it's totally the little, like, you do, like, you decarb some flour and you like mix it with this stuff and you put it on the little plate, and then there's like the paper that it moves like it like absorbs into it, and it'll tell you the potency of your cannabis at home. And it's like, I think it's like $100 for like a few kits or something like that. And I think it's like called like home testing kit, like cannabis home testing kit or something like that.
Wow.
But, what's really cool is, I think a lot of people, I grow my own plants here. I always have my 4 plants in my backyard because I'm in Oregon.
Yeah.
And, I have my flour. I've got my big old jars of what I have now. And it's like, I'll go to make stuff with it, and I have no idea how potent this is. And I can kind of guess based on what I'm comparing things to, but you shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
So anyway, I just brought this up because I think it's going to be interesting to see in the future, like home testing type stuff for you to be able to get. And actually those kits, they do a detailed cannabinoid profile. You get like THC, THCA, CBD, CBDN, THCN. There's like, I think 6 or 8 cannabinoids that it gives you the percentage on. And that excites me for, like, just the future of, as we've talked a lot about the industry tonight. So like almost one of my takeaways from tonight is like, we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go. It's like, this is just so new. And every edible experience is so unique because every body is literally unique. So
That's right.
And every cannabis plant is unique too.
Yes. I agree. I had, because I wanted to know, I had purchased a T-check. But I'm definitely interested in finding that cannabis home testing kit.
Yeah.
But they also have something called Mydx, and I was looking into it as well. And they you can test, and it brings up it doesn't just do cannabis, it can do organic foods, and it brings up pesticides, molds, all the terpenes, all the cannabinoids, and it can get costly, I guess, but for someone who's in, the cannabis industry and, has a business, then, I think that that's a great, especially if you're creating edibles or products or something like that, or for yourself at home, if you really want to know and test your own cannabis. I mean, I can't wait to grow. They just allowed, I'm in Connecticut, and we went recreational July 1st, and now they're allowing, if you stay a medicinal patient, they've allowed us to grow at home beginning October 1st. So, I'm excited to kind of get into that part of it as well.
It's
Right,
the best.
right.
Being able to grow your own shit is the best. And you know, this is so interesting. I've heard this and I don't know too much about the research, but cannabis that you grow, we have a hormonal connection with the plant, you know, so the cannabis will actually like tailor its profile to the
Mm,
person that's spending the most time with it. So, I
what?
mean, if you're like, yeah, isn't that really interesting? Like, if you are just growing your one plant and like, I wonder how this is, you know, I've heard lots of stories at this point, but for me this year, I grew 4 plants. It was me taking care of them. I was the person touching them, talking to them, spending time with them,
Right.
trimming them, watering them, the whole thing. And you know, they have pheromones and whatever, right? There are hormonal things in plants that
Hmm.
connect, and apparently, you know, the strains that you grow will actually become, it will like suit your, like, where you have receptors of like what you need, you know, it will plug it in. I don't know. I can't wait for us to have more information on all of this, because again, it just feels so new, especially in the like in bioavailability, how cannabis works with our body, not just not smoking, because it's,
Right.
you know, the healthiest way to consume cannabis is to eat it.
Yes,
Like,
yes, yes. I mean, as a vegetable, being able to juice it, being able to use it
yeah,
without having to activate it. You want, you know, the THCA and CBDA and CBGA and all those cannabinoids are great for your body as well. You know, oftentimes people don't want because they want the full effect of THC. But, you know, I'm like,
yeah,
you know, even it's just
it's a
like,
vegetable.
you know, you can take. I like the flavor, like the people like the flavor of truffles and things like that. I like the
I love
taste
that
of
flavor.
flavor. Right. And the same thing with cannabis. So, you know, what state are you in, Anna?
So I'm in Vermont,
Oh,
and
wow.
so we can legally grow it. We actually grew our first outdoor plant,
Wow.
and it was in between our garage and our house. So every day when I walked by it, I would say like, "I love you. You're so sexy," you know, and just like caress it. And a spider almost went in.
Oh,
Really?
But yes, it's
that's
really good. And
awesome.
I I had a quick question about whether either of you blanch your flour, because I was reading that you could blanch it to like remove some of the chlorophyll flavor so that your edibles are
Mm,
better. So I have this
cool.
thing
I've
about
never done that.
waste, and like I kept the boiling water and I kept the blanch, like the ice bath water, and I was like, I don't want to throw that out. So like I boiled it and made a reduction and added a bunch of maple syrup, and then I made this tea that actually gets you like pretty freaking high. And so I'm like, I don't
Amazing.
know if I'm onto something, but then I went on to decarb the flour and make tincture, but now I can like make tea and other things.
Yeah.
So
I
I don't
love
know.
that. I've never done that, and I just wanna say really quick, because I gotta go backstage, and we'll head over to the main stage in a few minutes here, so I'm just
Okay.
gonna pop back over, but have not heard of that, and I'm gonna Google it the second we get out of this event. I'm, like, gonna look into that, because I don't know about that, but that sounds freaking cool, and I think you are
Yes.
onto something.
Yes, yes, you are.
Thank
I
you,
mean, I
Takisha.
do
Thank
add
you so
water.
much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I do add water to my butter when I'm creating it. You know, when I was doing a crock pot method. So I still do, even without the crock pot. And so the butter won't be as green. And you're right, I do use that water to create another meal, whether it's oatmeal, rice, grits, or whatever I need water for. And I do get pretty lit. So
Nice.
I don't know. I don't know what they mean about throwing it. Listen, cannabis is surprisingly awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I don't want to waste anything when I'm
no,
using it myself.
no.
Even with the stems, I'm like, I compost them, but even I'm like, what can I do with these?
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, I thank you for joining in. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. I know that we are going to be going to the main stage.
All right. See you there.
Right.
Bye.
See you there. Bye bye. Okay, and thank you all for tuning into Edibles Dosing 101. And we will see you at the main stage.